Hello and welcome to my new series, the LDR, a series in which I tell you what you need to know about a game before you actually decide if you want to play it. I'm Polarians, and today we'll be taking a look at Genshin Impact, because most people just like to assume that it's just a carbon copy of Breath of the Wild, which I personally believe it's not. More specifically, we'll be taking a look at the story, gameplay, both single player and multiplayer, and finally the gacha. I picked these three topics because they're probably the most important ones to talk about, because most of the time you will either be focusing on the main story or you will be exploring everything you can in this fantastic world. But no matter what you do, you must remember, this is a gacha game, and if you don't know what that means, stick around because I will talk about that too. So after all this rambling, let's go ahead and start with the first aspect that I mentioned, the story. You start the game with a short cinematic that shows you two characters that seem to be traveling through the universe. Suddenly another god appears and they start fighting. At this point the game gives you the ability to choose which one you're gonna play with, and after that, whichever one you didn't pick will get captured, and you will be sent to the world of Teyvat. After this you find a traveling companion while trying to fish, somehow, who is called Payman. Payman is not related in any way, shape or form with real emergency food, and in relation with real emergency food is pure coincidence. She serves as a guide for the main character, which from now on will be referred as Traveler, since no name is given in the game. Once all the introduction is done, your new objective in the game is to find your twin, the one that got captured during the initial cinematic. To do so, you decide to follow Payman as she guides you to the Statue of the Seven.
That's a statue of the seven!
A statue that represents one of the seven gods in Teyvat, in this case the animal god or the god of wind, since she believes that you may find an answer if you seek them out. The answer that the god gives you is... Was that a freaking water drop? Turns out that the water drop actually gives you the power to control the air, an ability that you will be using throughout your adventure in order to fight enemies and solve puzzles scattered through the world. Also, there are things called animalculi that you can offer to the statues of the seven in order to become stronger, or at least that's what Payman says. Through your adventure, you will meet other characters that join your party, each with its own backstory and gameplay, allowing you to get involved with the story more and get to know the relations that each character has with one another. So that was mostly what you had to know about the story. Let's now talk about the gameplay. Let's start with the basics, everything you can do in the game and how the mechanics work. In the gameplay aspect, this game shares some similarities with Zelda Breath of the Wild. There are normal attacks, there are charge attacks. You can run, climb, swim, which is not dive, glide. Later on in the game, you have a limited stamina bar that gets consumed whenever you do any of these actions, which you can upgrade if you collect animalculi and offer them to the Statue of the Seven. And also, you have weapons and other pieces of equipment that you can find by defeating enemies or solving puzzles in the world. But here's where the game starts to differ from Breath of the Wild. First of all, your equipment doesn't break, you can upgrade any piece of equipment. There is an actual leveling system for the character that allows you to increase your stats. Instead of having only one character that can access all abilities, you have several characters that you can get in your party, with a maximum of 4 in rotation, each having control over an element and each element being useful in different situations. There are 7 elements in the game: Anemo or wind, Pyro or fire, Hydro or water, Creo or ice, Electro or lightning, Geo or earth, and Dendro or nature. Dendro being the only element that no character can control, at least at the time of the recording of this video. Each character can control only one element, with the exception of the Traveler that can shift between Anemo and Hail, because of blood I guess. All characters have at least 2 abilities related to their elements. The Elemental Skill, which is a special ability that unleashes the element of the character in some way, normally with a cooldown of 5 to 20 seconds. And the Elemental Burst, which can be compared to an ultimate ability, because it's much more powerful than the Elemental Skill, but you also need to charge it with elemental combos. Also, Lisa's Elemental Burst is just a lamp. Just wanted to throw that out there. All the elements can interact with each other, so if you use a Hail skill on an enemy affected by any other element, you will get a shield that protects from all damage, but is most effective against said element. If you use an Electro skill on an enemy affected by Hydro, they will constantly take electro damage, and so on with every other element. And finally, each character uses a specific weapon, which means that if your character can only use a sword, they will not suddenly learn Kyudo just because you give them a bow. Of course, because it's an open world, there are lots of exploration involved in the game. The cool thing is that the game rewards you for exploring as well. Most of the time, if you decide to go exploring, you will either find animalculi that increases your stamina bar, or chests that contain precious loot. So after explaining the unique mechanics of the game, let's talk about the next topic, the multiplayer. I know that the next in order is the multiplayer, however, I believe it will be easier to explain if we first talk about the gacha. So we talk about the story and that we have to save our twin, we talk about the gameplay and the whole elements mechanic, but all of that is free. MiHoYo is not making money for any of that. So how can MiHoYo make money out of this game if everything that we have talked about is free? Introducing wishes. They call it wishes, but this is basically how most gacha games work. You remember when I said that other characters will join your party, which is true for 3 characters, Amber, Lisa and Kaeya? Well, in order to get any other character you need to make a wish. Not like a literal wish that you make when you're at your birthday and you have to blow Which is basically like playing a toy vending machine. You play it and you get something random from the prize pool. The rarer the item, the harder it is to get. In this case, you can either get a 4-star item, a 5-star item, or a 3-star weapon, which is basically junk. Keep in mind that when I say item, it's because you can either get a weapon or a character when you make a wish. Those are both qualified as items. In the game, there are standard wishes and promotional wishes. Standard wishes are your regular vending machine. You can get anything from them at any point in time. Promotional wishes, on the other hand, are limited time vending machines which give you an increased chance of getting something specific. Now, don't get confused with what I just said. You don't have an increased chance of getting, for example, a 5-star item in any of them. They both have the same percentage of probability, but if you were to get that 5-star item, the chances that it's the one that is being promoted is higher. With a 4-star character having a chance of 5.1% in any given wish, with a guaranteed 4-star character on your 10th wish without getting one, and a 5-star character with a 0.6% chance of appearing in any given wish, with a guaranteed 5-star character on your 90th wish without getting one. In order to make a wish, you need either Intertwined Fate for promotional wishes or Acquaint Fate for standard wishes. And in order to get those, you need to give 160 Primogems for each. You can get these Primogems by completing missions and collecting stuff in game, but of course, you could also pay for them. Around $30 for 2240 Primogems, which equates to 14 wishes of any type. Meaning that if you wanted to make those 90 wishes to get a guaranteed 5-star, you will need to spend $210 with this payment. And even if you use the biggest payment, which costs $100 for 8080 Primogems, that equates to 50 wishes, you will still need to spend $200 for a chance of getting the 5-star that you want. Yes, a chance, because whenever you get a 5-star character in the promotional wishes, there's a 50% chance that it's the character being promoted, increased to 100% on your next wish if you don't get it, which means that you will actually have to spend twice as much if you wanted to guarantee the 5-star character that you want. Not only that, there's a thing called Constellation which gives your character unique passives increasing that character's strength, but to increase said Constellation, you need to use Stella Fortuna, which can only be obtained by getting a duplicate of the character, which means you have to do all you just did with another 6 times in case you want to max out the constellation of said character. This is what is getting the big bucks. But I digress. Even though all these probabilities are extremely low, the prices are quite high, and there's this whole constellation system, it doesn't matter. Because you don't need a 5-star character to complete the game. You don't even have to spend money in making wishes for the constellation. You can just play the game without ever caring about any of these things. And even if you still wanted to make wishes, you can. There are several things that you can do to get Primogems and make those wishes anyway. I just feel like you don't need to spend money in the game to enjoy it. Let me explain it by going back to the multiplayer. First of all, to unlock multiplayer, you have to reach Adventurer rank 16, which is not your character level, it's more like the player level. This can take around 10 hours of gameplay if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, this can take from upwards of 2 days. And when you do finally unlock it, it's not even freaking worth it! Let me explain. The first thing that you'll notice, if you're not the host of the game, you will not be able to open chests, collect animoculi, the things that you use to increase your stamina, or do story quests, leaving you only the next co-op activities. Leyline outcrops, which are normally 2 waves of enemy that spawn around you and give you rewards once you defeat them. Abyssal domains, which are like dungeons, commissions, world quests, collect resources, and kill monsters. Which doesn't sound like it's too bad, but that's because I haven't talked about Original RESIN yet. Original RESIN are these moon-shaped tokens that allow you to access special activities. You have a maximum of 120 and they recharge over time, at a rate of 1 each 8 minutes, taking 16 hours to fully recharge. So, what are the activities that you can access with this? Easy. Leyline outcrops and abyssal domains. Which means that if you run out of Original RESIN, you will have to wait either 2.5 hours to do another leyline outcrop or 5 hours to do another abyssal domain. I know what you're probably thinking. In that case, I'll just make commissions and work quests. And that'd be fine if you could make more than 4 commissions a day and work quests were in random events, which means that you don't have control over their spawn, and also the fact that they tend to glitch out and not allow the players to interact correctly, rendering the quest completely inaccessible. That leaves 2 co-op activities: collect resources and kill monsters. I could understand if you wanted to collect resources for some reason, but killing monsters for the sake of it is not very useful, because as I mentioned before, there is in fact a leveling system that allows you to increase the power of your characters. However, the actual experience is collected from either Wanderer's Advice, which gives you a small amount of experience, mostly used at low levels when you don't need too much experience to level up. Then you have Adventurer's Experience that gives out a moderate amount, and finally you have Hero's Wit that gives a large amount of experience and is the only one that matters later on in the game, because the actual amount of experience that the enemies give you is next to none. That doesn't mean that you can't just go and kill them, it just means that if you're doing it to level up, that doesn't mean that you can't just go and kill them, it just means that if you're doing it to level up, you should probably play that doesn't mean that you can't just go and kill them, it just means that if you're doing it to level up, you should probably play 1 hour of Lisa Money from Genshin Impact as background music, because at least that way you will get some joy out of what you're doing. It's just for the video, mom. Nothing else. The last thing I would like to say about multiplayer is that there is no way to PvP, at least for the time being. That means that you can't even challenge your friends to show whose waifu fights better, or whose bando, I don't know. So if there is no way to PvP, and you don't need new characters to defeat enemies and complete the story, is there really a reason to spend on wishes? I mean, as far as the multiplayer goes, you could get a super rare 5-star character to make your friends jealous, I guess. Or maybe troll them with Yin elemental skill, but I didn't give you ideas. But aside from that, there's really no need to do it. And without any of these things, I just feel like the multiplayer kinda sucks. So, should you play the game? If what you're looking for is a multiplayer Breath of the Wild, you will not find it here. As I said before, although this game shares some similarities with Breath of the Wild, both in graphics and gameplay, you can't just say that it's a carbon copy of it. That will be completely ignoring the story of the game, the unique characters, and the whole element system, which I believe made this game so unique. However, if you're looking for a single-player open-world adventure game, then yes, you will definitely have lots of fun exploring the world and getting to know each character. But be warned, remember that this is a gacha game, and even if you play with what you're given, you will need to do some intense farming later on in the game. If you're fine with that though, go ahead and dive right into this wonderful game. As for my final score, I will give this game a 7 out of 10. And that's the end. I know that this is different from what I usually do, and I really appreciate you watching till the end. From now on, I will start moving forward and creating better content without it necessarily being about games. I will still cover games on this channel, but probably not in a gameplay format. I'm still deciding about opening a second channel in which I will upload gameplays, but for now, this channel will probably upload content weekly about topics related to anime and games, so if you like that, definitely stay tuned. Thank you again for watching till the end, and I hope you keep enjoying my content. Now for real this time, see you guys.